Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.
Welcome to Game Over Montreal. I'm Andrew Berkshire, as always, and I guess we have some stuff to talk about tonight. The Montreal Canadiens lose to the Florida Panthers. It wasn't a 3-point game, so you can be happy about that. There's some good news in the whole tanking thing, but obviously the refs completely lost control of this game. From the first period on, I think I've got my webcam covered right now, but that's okay. We'll fix that. Now you can see me as well as hear me. It was just a mess, a total mess, complete destruction of like the game having any meaning whatsoever by the officials in this one. And there's gonna be lots to talk about, obviously. But I've got Hadi Kalakeche on with us. We're gonna talk about some prospects because the Canadiens obviously own both of the first round picks between these two teams. And, I guess we'll talk about Sam Montebello a little bit because I feel like this game unfairly destroyed his numbers. But let's get right into it because I feel like we're going to have some fireworks tonight and maybe some people will get excited about what we're talking about. But before I welcome in Hadi, I got to ask you, you think let's try that again. I got to ask you, think you know what way it's going to go? Make your bet with Sports Interaction. Whether it's hockey, football, or basketball, Sports Interaction has you covered. Bet pregame, live in play, or on one of our many prop bets. Sports Interaction makes it easy to deposit, play, and cash out. Join now and see all sports betting has to offer. Want to bet? Head to sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. That's sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. 19 plus. Please play responsibly. All right, let's welcome in Hadi. Hadi, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well. I mean, frankly, that game was entertaining. I will say that.
That's a word.
But my God, the brutal missed calls in that game, and not just by the officials, because I think the first goal the Panthers scored absolutely should not have counted. Just by the way the rules are written, by the way it's always been called. But I counted it down going into the third period. Nick Suzuki has a breakaway, and a Florida Panther defenseman just takes his stick away. No call. Mike Matheson lays a brutal reverse hit headshot on Eric Stahl that goes uncalled. The puck is like 4 or 5 feet away from them. And then you've got the non-call and the goalie interference, which I alluded to. And there was another one that I'm forgetting now. Oh, the hit from behind on Xhekaj at the end of the second period.
Yep.
So I think from the Matheson hit, there's already the potential of this game boiling over. Then they let the Xhekaj hit go. These guys are fools.
Yeah, they just lost control of this game entirely. I think that, if you want a playbook, like if you want a game to show new refs in terms of, hey, this is how you lose control of the game. This was it. It was textbook. Letting things fly that shouldn't, a bunch of missed calls, a bunch of weird calls on goals and stuff like that. It was just, it was just a mess. And at the end of the day, the Habs did what they could, but honestly, they just got outplayed by the Panthers. The Panthers' record right now, I mean, they shouldn't be the 11th worst team in the NHL based on the way they play. They play a really rough style. They push a lot offensively. They keep pressure active in the offensive zone really well. It's just a matter of time before things get sort of replaced with them. And it's mainly because of the injuries they've suffered, I think. That's sort of what's derailed their season a bit. They lost a bit of offensive depth, and now they have to rely on certain pieces too much. But I wouldn't bet on them staying where they are right now.
You think they're going to make the playoffs, though? Because the uphill battle seems extreme. Like, they're close to a spot right now, but they have to basically leapfrog the Islanders, the Penguins, the Sabres, and Philadelphia's trying to catch up to them as well. And they have, all those teams have games in hand on them.
Yeah, no, that's the rough part. I'd be surprised if they do make the playoffs, but I think they do remain. I think the Habs will get a pick somewhere between 12 and 15, 16. That's the range I see them going. They might just miss the playoffs. Obviously, every point counts. So when they go on rough stretches like they did recently, and at the start of the season, it creates instability within the team. It makes it tough for teams to build momentum and chain together 5, 6, 7 wins like you have to when you're in this position and want to make the playoffs. So yeah, I think it's sort of a little too late in their case. He might leapfrog. They almost definitely will leapfrog the Islanders. I think the Sabres will inevitably do what they do every year, which is just plummet halfway through the season. Um, but yeah, I don't see them staying at 11 right now in terms of the draft pick, but I don't really see them making the playoffs either.
Yeah, it's a bad place to be, but
Yeah.
they could be slightly worse for the Panthers if they were to finish lower and then give a divisional rival an even higher pick. But
Yeah.
I'm still holding out hope that Paul Maurice is the losingest coach in NHL history, and the goaltending. I think Leon was pretty good tonight, but overall, I don't. They kept on calling him Lion, but I'm pretty sure his name is Leon. But maybe he's American, but.
Mm.
Yeah, the goaltending hasn't been as good this year compared to last year, and I feel like one of the issues that Florida has, aside from I think Matt Tkachuk has been great, but maybe hasn't had the chemistry that Huberdeau has had on the power play. But I think a lot of guys had career years for Florida last year.
Yeah.
And as much as I think Sam Bennett and Sam Reinhart in particular have been really unlucky. You can't bet on them having career years again the following year, and that's kind of hurt them.
Yeah, no, see, big trades like this, it's so rare for, year one to be a loss for both teams. And I think this is sort of a case here. The Panthers gave up a lot for Matt Tkachuk. For me, giving up Mackenzie Weegar, who, in my opinion, was their best defender last year. And for a couple of years now, it just, that on top of Huberdeau. I mean, Huberdeau right now is struggling as well. He's no different than Matthew Tkachuk in that case. So that's what I mean by this trade kind of being a losing trade for both teams in year one. But I think that as things materialize, we'll have a clearer winner. It's just right now, it's so weird to see both of them struggle, but I guess it's just getting sort of used to the new environment, the new locker room, the new chemistry that you have to build up. That kind of plays into it. But yeah, no, it's just a strange thing for a trade that big. A real, one of the biggest blockbuster trades we've seen in recent, in a recent while. To have that be a losing sort of trade in year one for both teams is just strange to me.
Yeah, it's a tough situation for the Calgary Flames. I feel like the Panthers didn't necessarily need to make that move, though.
Yep.
It's weird. But let's stop talking about the Florida Panthers for now, unless we're talking about the pick. Let's talk about the Montreal Canadiens, who obviously I think started this game relatively well.
Yeah.
I thought they played really well in the first period. I know that they weren't as good as the Panthers for sure, but coming out of that period, I'm surprised. I'm looking at Natural Stat Trick, and it has the Canadiens down for one high danger chance in the first period.
Yeah.
But I know for a fact they definitely had three. They hit the post twice, like right in front of the net, and then Caufield had that one time. I mean, I guess it's not technically high danger based on location on the ice, but like a cross crease one timer on what looked like an empty net and a fantastic save by Leon/Lion. I would not have said it would be that lopsided based on watching the game.
Yeah, that second was brutal, though. The Habs were struggling to create momentum off the rush or struggling to break out. The Panthers did a great job of putting pressure at the offensive blue line, like setting up shop there so that every turnover would turn into another turnover for them. It was just a great job by them to sort of hem in the Habs, benefit from the inexperience in that lineup, and just overall the Habs again seemed flat-footed. I think that's been one of the main consistent factors this year, is that a lot of the veterans especially seemed to constantly get miss their passes by an inch or two, struggle to skate with momentum, to create passing plays off the rush like we saw under Claude Julien, for example. That was a sort of staple of their game, is that rush game, quick passing plays, quick transition, counterattack. It's just been rough overall for the Habs, and I think that second period was sort of the epitome of that.
Yeah, it was rough, and I think you can look back on it from like the Canadiens fan perspective and say, like, that first goal that Florida scored should not have counted. I think the challenge by Marty St. Louis was a very smart challenge.
Yeah.
As much as people were trying to argue it, post hoc, but getting punished for it afterwards with the extra penalty.
Yeah.
Which it's such a wild situation in the NHL right now where like the refs and the league itself just will not do their job.
Yeah.
And rely on a coach to challenge a play. But then if the coach gets it wrong, or if the league decides that they're going to say, like, I'm assuming that the reasoning for the call they made was that they decided that Sam Montembeault wouldn't have been able to get over to save that puck anyway if Matt Tkachuk wasn't in the way.
Yep.
But that's not the rule.
I just maintain that it's so strange to me that in hockey, the only person in the whole rink that gets punished for a missed call is the coach. It just, for me, like the amount of errors that refs make in a game, like you'd expect them to understand, I guess, but it's just, it's a weird choice. I think the rule should have stayed the way it was, which was that if you had a timeout, you lost it. And if you did, if you use your timeout, then you got a penalty. I think that's a fairer exchange than straight up giving a team a 2-minute bench minor for delay of game for like a minute and a half review, I don't know.
Well, and especially like I understand it a little bit more for like an offside challenge because I hate offside challenges. Like to me, if the challenge takes more than like 5 seconds for an offside challenge, I don't care. It didn't impact the game at all.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like on top of that, what I think is, about the offside challenges is that because it's such an avoidable thing, like we've got goal line technology in soccer. We've had it in tennis for decades. It would be such an avoidable problem that I think that, once the NHL catches up technologically and has sort of puck technology to track offsides, then you can revert back to that rule. You know what I mean? Because at that point, you're not wasting time on trivial things. You're actually, the call gets done quickly. In fact, it should almost get done automatically. I think it's just a matter of time before the old heads catch up in that sense.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm seeing there's Panthers fans in the comments saying refs suck as usual, and I think that should be the takeaway from this game. Is I don't think like Canadiens fans are looking at this game and be like, oh, I'm so upset that we lost because the reffing was so terrible. I think Panthers fans are upset about the officiating too because
it was terrible.
That Matheson hit alone, like I think you could make an argument.
That could be reviewed.
It could be a suspension. Yeah, because it was a hit to the head. It wasn't like blindside, but like he did kind of blindside him because you don't expect to get hit when the puck's 100%. Not near either of you.
Yeah.
Like I'm a fan of the reverse hit when the puck carrier has the puck.
Yeah, of course.
Right? You're engaged in a battle, but that's just like imagine somebody did that on an icing play.
That would be horrible. But that's the thing. It reminds me of this play that Kirby Dock got a penalty for something like way lighter than that. The puck was literally within reaching distance of the opposing player. He goes in for a hit, gets called for interference, goes to the penalty box, cusses out the ref. He like shut the door real hard to the penalty box and got an extra 2 minutes for misconduct. Like it's just. It's so funny to me, the inconsistency league wide, but even within a single game in terms of officiating. And I understand that it's such a fast sport. Like, I scout for a living. That's the thing that, I've sort of had to train my eye to is just the quickness of the game. And, I have the opportunity to pause and slow-mo stuff that is too fast for me. Like I understand the rest perspective of, they're in the heat of it. There's 4 heads on the ice. Sometimes they're all 4 of them are puck watching. Things happen. But man, there has to be a better way.
And you know what? There is.
Yeah.
Off-ice officials. I've been saying this for years now. Mm-hmm. The NHL needs to institute it. Like, not only would you be able to have off-ice officials with mics, that the refs could talk to them in like the balcony or whatever, in the Bell Center. You could put rookie refs off-ice first. So that they're say that I don't know what the official schedule is for like number of games they do a year, but I think it's like over 100, which that's exhausting.
That's a boatload of games.
It is, and like I know they're struggling to find refs because it's a tough job, and nobody is gonna like come in here and say it's easy to be an NHL referee or it's
100%.
like an amazing job where there's no downsides. There's huge downsides. The travel schedule is brutal. The amount of games that you have to do, like you're skating way more than an NHLer
60
does.
minutes a game and more.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah.
And a lot of these guys are older too, so it takes a lot out of you, I'm sure. But train guys where they're doing half of their season or even more as off-ice officials for the first 2 to 3 years, where they can communicate with veteran officials, learn their perspective on the ice. Like it's basically like an apprenticeship program, and then you're getting into games, and you have a different perspective. It teaches also humility for like if you mess up a call and somebody upstairs is saying, "Hey, you missed this," okay. But I just don't understand what the resistance is to it, because I don't see the downside unless it's officials themselves being, egotistical and saying like, well, I don't want somebody overruling me, which I don't know if that's the case. I don't like, I'm sure there are some, but I don't think refs writ large are like that upset with, like helping them get the right call. I feel like most people want to get the right call.
Yeah, I mean, if you want my honest to God opinion, I just don't think the NHL's even considered this. I think it's really that simple. But yeah, no, it's a fantastic idea. It would sort of help. It's kind of like VAR in soccer, right?
Yep.
Like just having like a bird's eye view with cameras, slow mos, all that, in order to catch the stuff that needs to be caught. If you want to clean up the game and supposedly make the sport safer for your employees, I think the best way to do it is, I mean, if you work at McDonald's, you've got footage on you've got like video cameras on you checking to make sure you're doing the right thing. I think that having that in the NHL isn't sort of a ridiculous or absurd idea. It just makes sense.
Yeah. I'm saying it, and I'll continue to beat the drum. Off ice officials, it's needed in the NHL. The
Yeah.
game has become too fast, and the rules are too vague. We need to overhaul the rule book a little bit as well. And
Mm-hmm.
also, like, give us some breakdowns on what goalie interference is, because every year that I can remember as an adult, that Matthew Tkachuk situation is a goaltender interference call. You can't get in the way of a goaltender in the crease. It's just not allowed. It doesn't matter where they are. It doesn't matter who initiates contact. And for anybody who would say like, oh, well, the shot was going in anyway. No, because it was a penalty, and then you have to blow the play dead. Like
Yeah.
as soon as the player has possession. So like, no, it should not have counted. But either way, let's move on from the refs, because I'm tired of talking about them. And
The issue
don't
every
deserve
game.
it.
We might as well just move on.
Exactly. I will say I enjoyed how much fire the Canadians brought in the third period. That
Yep.
they didn't go out there headhunting. They got into 3 fights, which is, I guess you could say, headhunting. But Xhekaj surprisingly didn't initiate his fight. I feel like
Yep.
he was hesitant to get into it with Smith, which maybe is because he knew how that fight was going to go. But they just played really hard. They went for guys mostly legally. They had a couple like late hits, but they weren't like from behind or anything. Kirby Dock, especially.
Yep.
He was throwing his weight around. Like him and Suzuki both wiped out Gudas hard.
Yep. No, they got tired of him pretty much. Gudas was doing the usual Radko Gudas stuff, and they just decided, hey, I mean, two can play this game, and that's what I love about sort of Kirby Dock's development is that he has grown like different parts of his game. I think his stride depth has improved massively. He's worked on his skating a lot, evidently. His work along the boards has improved so much. He's able to box off defenders' hands and all that. But all that has afforded him the liberty of tweaking his game to the time frame of the game and the score. Like he wouldn't be doing this in a tied game. He wouldn't be doing this in a game where the Habs have an opportunity to come back or where they're defending a lead. But he's doing so many good things on the ice that he can afford to have a shift where all he does is just throw his body around. And that's just fun. It's fun hockey for a player who's honestly deserved it. Struggling a lot with Chicago in terms of gelling with their top ends. Gets traded, honestly, I wasn't the biggest fan of the trade. It was mainly because Frank Nazar was still available at the 2022 draft with the pick the Habs picked up. I would have loved to have him, but word around the block was that it was between Noah Ostlund and Jonathan Lekkerimäki for the Habs at that spot if they kept the pick. Ended up trading it for Kirby Dock. For me, that's just a fantastic pickup. Being able to turn Alex Romanov in a couple of seconds into Kirby Dock is fantastic.
Yeah, the huge play from
He's
Kent Hughes, and it
he's
just keeps
driving his
on getting
line.
better.
Yeah, and I mean he's driving his line right now.
He
It's
is.
he's genuinely. They had to separate him from Suzuki and Caufield because he was driving that line too well to be a winger. So they decided let's give him a shot at center at 2C, and it's working out great for him right now. There was the last game on Tuesday that the Habs played. There was a play where I thought it was Josh Anderson barreling down the wing in possession using crossovers and building up speed with huge strides, and then I see that first seven. I'm like, wait, that's Kirby Dock. It's just it's ridiculous, man. He's grown so much in terms of his overall game, his impact, just his ability to man transitions exceptionally. I don't think there's a better transition driver, on the Habs team than Kirby Dock right now.
No, I don't think so either. Maybe Mike Matheson from the back end, but
Yeah.
even then, like it's a totally different situation that we're talking about. And to excuse you, if I remember correctly, I think the exact play that you're talking about, the play-by-play person, Brian Mudrick from TSN, also thought it was Josh Anderson when that exact play happened. So very easy to make that mistake with the 2 sevens and then playing on the same line.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I was impressed with the pushback from the Canadians and not just folding in this one, because it looked in the second like they were going to fold. And I would love to hear the explanation on why Xhekaj got the 10-minute misconduct, although I do think it was a smart decision to try to cool things down.
Yeah.
But just, it's weird to have one guy restrained and 4 Florida Panthers in there throwing glove punches. But
they had to nerf him. That's all it was.
Yeah.
If you allow Xhekaj to play those 10 minutes, it would just hit the rails. I don't think. Yeah.
yeah, they had to. They had no choice. Although I would have taken off all the Panthers too. Like it's stupid stuff like that where it's just like, well, we'll award the team that's getting pounded, or it's not getting pounded. That's got the score going in their favor. I will say, I feel bad for Sam Montembeault tonight because he was phenomenal to start this game, and he's been phenomenal the last several games. We brought him up on the last broadcast where he went up against, head-to-head against Sorokin, Shesterkin, and Hellebuck, out-battled 2 of the 3 of them, posted a .952 save percentage over those games, and then tonight came out, was playing just as well pretty much, and the power plays just murdered him tonight. I felt so bad for the kid. How do you see Montembeault and like his future? 'Cause obviously, we're talking small sample size, but this whole season, I think he's been the better Canadiens goaltender and more consistent one as well.
He's a short-term solution, in my opinion. During this supposed rebuild, if you're able to throw him in there, have him sort of ballot it out, keep his team in the game just long enough for the youngsters to gain experience, to play in tight scenarios, to learn how to navigate those 2-2, 3-3 games. I think that is sort of what you need from Montembeault. I don't think he's their long-term solution. I don't think that Montembeault is going to be the goaltender of the franchise. Nowhere near that. But I think that during this rebuild, it's an intelligent thing to have him there, and sort of man the pipes. I think Jake Allen could get a decent return. And if you can keep Montebello and Primo in net for the next 3-4 years until the youngsters mature, Nick Suzuki actually takes this team by the reins. Cole Caufield scoring 50. Juraj Slafkovsky hopefully is playing in the top 6. I think that if you can get to that point with Montebello and Primo in net, I think you're set.
Yeah, 100%. I'm just I'm wondering, like, Kaden Primo, I think he's been officially passed on the depth chart for the next several years in terms of like who's going to kind of hold down the fort while they're rebuilding by Sam Montembeault. I know there's not that much of an age gap between them. But like Kaden Primo tonight, I felt bad for him as well. He comes in, doesn't face a shot for a long stretch. The first shot he faces is like it's got to be like a 30% XG shot tip in right in front of his cage. 0% save percentage for like the first 10 minutes of the third period. I felt horrible for him. But he seemed to battle it out a little bit towards the end of the game there. How are you feeling about Kaden Primo and how he's played this season?
Listen, it's been rough. I think he's kind of been, confidence is such a huge thing for netminders. Just being confident in your ability to stop a puck will help you a ton. I think that the entire sort of situation with Primo is um, he had it out of the NCAA just dominating. He was excellent, especially in his final year with Northeastern, I believe. Um, and just the way it sort of devolved for him in Laval, um, it kind of sort of puts it kind of just stops you in your tracks when you're trying to build momentum for your career. And I think that that was sort of a key teaching moment. But the thing with goaltenders is they often develop real late. So I'm not exceptionally worried about Primo. I think there's still, a sort of fringe starter sort of build within him. You have to dig deep for it. You might have to wait a couple years, but I think that Primo could step in and sort of share the crease with Montebello in the next, 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, it makes sense. Before we get into the prospect stuff, I'm just looking at Kay in the chat is posting some of the post game press conference stuff, and
Yep.
Jacques is dragging Radko Gudas in the post game presser
Awesome.
for never answering the bell after taking runs at guys' knees, and he 100% tried to take out Doc's knees at the end of
Yep.
that game, which was just straight up hurt feelings because when Doc hit him, it was not cheap. Just
Mhm.
pushed him over in the corner. Like, it was a puck battle.
Yeah.
He got the better of you.
Mhm.
Unfortunate. I haven't seen any. I guess St. Louis hasn't spoken yet that I've seen, but I'm interested to see if he gets the $25,000 fine that Paul Maurice got after their last game. If
Yeah.
I were St. Louis, I would not. I think you save your bullets for when the games matter.
Mhm.
And as much as he wants to win and he understands it's a rebuilding year, I feel like it's just not worth it. How
Yeah.
about you?
I truly think that St. Louis should just try his best not to comment on the officiating, and just I understand wanting to defend your guys. I think that it's important that he shows the will to do it, but I think that a bit of restraint would help a lot in the situation. The attention will be taken off of the poor performance and all the indiscipline and all the stuff you can point to and say like, hey, this was a rough game for them. Sure, but I mean, even on a financial standpoint, I don't think having a $25,000 fine to his name is a good idea right now.
Yeah.
Um,
So it sounds like he has spoken. He said the challenge was on the gray side. So that's he's not being that
he's
inflammatory.
not getting fined for that.
No.
I'm almost certain.
No.
Almost.
I
You never
mean,
know.
I think they get fined when they say things that are over the line, right?
Yeah.
Or when they call into question like integrity, saying like it was a close call or like in the gray area. I don't think the NHL cares about that. I think
Yeah.
they understand emotions, but other than that, yeah. All right, so let's get into some prospect talk
Hell
because
yeah.
as we mentioned off the top of the show, the Canadians own the first round pick for both of these teams. I think it's more fun to focus on the Panthers at the moment
Mhm.
because everybody knows what's at stake with the Canadians pick
Yeah.
and how high they could go. If they manage to win the lottery somehow, or
Mhm.
if they lose out for the rest of the year and somehow fall down enough to be given a higher chance to win the lottery. But
Yeah.
the Panthers pick, unlikely to win the lottery, pretty unlikely to be in the bottom 11 that could shoot up to number one.
Mhm.
But there's some great players available in the middle of the first round this year.
Yep.
So if you had your pick, Hattie, if you could just give us like two or three players in the middle of that first round that you'd be eyeing if you were the Montreal Canadiens.
Man, it really does depend on sort of whether you're looking at who I like or who I think will be available. Because there's guys I have in my top 15 that I know for sure might very well be second rounders come draft day. But I think that they've got a ton of talent. One guy who's like that is Jaden Perron. The offensive skill, the goal scoring ability, the ability to cut inside consistently on players. He's constantly pushing the middle. He plays for a premium organization in the Chicago Steel in the USHL. He's 5'8", 157 pounds. So almost definitely not going to be a top 15 pick. It's extremely, extremely rare for players under 5'9" to get drafted that high. But Man, I love this kid. I mean, the goal scoring ability, the goal scoring touch is already really good. He's got a tremendous release. Yet on top of that, his ability to delay, to make plays off the rush, to cycle the puck. He's really strong down low as well for a guy of his size. So, that would be one guy I look at. But in terms of sort of who's realistically going to be there, I think that Mikhail Gulyayev would actually be a not bad pickup for the Habs. I know he's a left-handed defenseman, but right now I've got him at 12th overall, and he's probably going to be available in the 15 range just because of Russian, obviously. But you look even further, I think Riley Height would be a great pickup as well. He can double as a wing or a center. He's playing tremendously for the Prince George Cougars in the WHL right now. One scout I was talking to actually compared him to sort of a better version of Yanni Gourde. Now it'd be interested in having a player like that, fill out the top six for the Canadiens. I don't think he's going to be a top liner, but a really, really good second liner who can double as a center or a wing, play on the PK, play on the power play, do a bit of everything. Relentless, intense, great playmaker. I mean, he's one guy I would look at with the Panthers pick. But if you're really looking for a right-handed defenseman, I guess you could take a shot at a guy. I mean, Axel Sandin Pellikka, if he's available at 15, I'm running to the stage. But I think he's going to be a sort of top 10 prospect in terms of where he gets picked up, because teams they tend to blow the gun early on defensemen, especially right-handed defensemen. We can see that in the 2019 draft. But if Sandin Pellikka is not available, I'd go for David Reinbacher. I was really, really impressed with him at the World Juniors. Went back and watched some tape of him. I mean, the league he's playing in right now, it's not sort of a bum league. It's a pro league with a lot of players who are ex-NHLers, because it's a league that pays really well in Switzerland. So you got, Canadian ex-NHLers that are playing in that league, and he is just dominating in terms of points, in terms of production. As a right-handed defenseman, he's big. He moves extremely well. He's a tremendous breakout facilitator. I've got him at 19, but he could easily be, that guy at 15 for the Habs.
Yeah, for sure. Perron, do you think he goes higher in this draft because of someone like Cole Caufield?
That's an excellent question. I think that Caufield is sort of a unicorn in his sense, because despite the fact, Perron still has, an inch on him. He's still got some weight on him compared to Caufield's weight in his draft year. Caufield was almost 5'6" in his draft year. And it's extremely, extremely rare for players under 5'8" to even make the NHL. The numbers astronomically small, but the thing with Perron is he's got more playmaking ability than Caufield. Definitely, his shot is about half of Caufield's is. But if you can get a 25 goal scorer who can put up, 35, 40 assists, that's why I've got him at 13th overall. That's why I like him. But I think that teams are still stuck. I think that Daniil But gets drafted before Jaden Perron, and I think that's a crime. I genuinely do. Daniil But is in my honorable mentions. I did a top 50. I think he gets drafted before Jaden Perron, and it's not fair, because for me, Jaden Perron exemplifies what I look for in a small player. Plays inside contact, cuts to the middle, great pace of play, extremely reactive and smart. He's got a tremendous shot. He's got dual threat ability with that playmaking as well. Extremely, extremely good stick handler. He controls the game, and that's rare for 5'8" players. He's just pretty much the textbook definition of what I look for in a small guy. So I think he should be a top 15 prospect. I don't think it happens though. I think that Caufield's situation is exceptional because you knew you were getting a top end goal scorer in him, that his size wouldn't matter. I think that Perron, there might be questions about whether his size is going to affect his game. I don't think it will. But again, I think that Daniil But gets drafted before him, and that's a crime.
Yeah. He might be one of those guys also that teams with multiple picks are like, well, let's see if he falls a little bit further, right? And that kind of artificially causes him to fall down into like the high second round, low first round kind of situation. Maybe a team like trades up in the bottom of the first round for him. Something like that. We're
talking about Lane Hudson right now, because it sounds like we're talking about Lane Hudson.
It does sound like we're talking about Lane Hudson, but hey, adding a second Lane Hudson to the organization doesn't sound like a bad idea to me. There's a bunch of comments on here talking about Quentin Musty. I don't know if that's how you pronounce his last name, but Quentin Musty is a must draft for name value alone, says Trizak. So there's a bunch of Dusty Musty fans in the chat, which is always fun. Here's a question for you that I keep on seeing. Obviously, there's a Instagram account that's getting dragged a little bit for taking Ryan Kennedy's comments out of context on Matvei Michkov.
Yeah.
But there seems to be a continuing trend between like the Russian factor and what his contract looks like with the KHL and like the general like chaos around Russia right now. It seems like Michkov's not value, but like his stock is dropping a little bit.
Yeah.
And I know, like, I talked to a bunch of scouts last year, and they were saying, like, after Bedard, he's the second most talented player in the draft. Might be even a better goal scorer. And obviously, Bedard in the World Juniors this year, where Michkov wasn't able to be there because Russia didn't participate, has taken all the attention. And Adam Fantilli got dragged in the World Juniors for putting up better numbers than Sidney Crosby did as a 17-year-old.
Yep.
So, or 17-year-old. So gotta put that in context for poor Adam Fantilli.
Yep.
But Michkov, if he falls to like 4 or 5 or even 6, is you see that as like a remote possibility, or is he just too good and all this is noise?
Yeah, I mean, my tier 3 to 6 has him at third. I think he could easily slip to 6. I think the teams might even be like, if there's some concerns with this play right now. I'm not going to deny that. I'm still a big Michkov fan. I still think that his ability to stick handle in tight, to just play in tight to the net. I don't know if you've ever played NHL, but he's that guy with the close quarter zone ability who just constantly gets goals from like 3 feet around the net and there's nothing you can do. It's just his ability to squeeze pucks in. I just love it. But there's a real issue with his shot selection right now. I mean, he shoots from everywhere. It's not like Cole Caufield where there's some rhyme or reason to it. There are situations where he's got no chance. He's firing right in the goalie's crest from literally the left corner of the net. But his skill is undeniable. I mean, I think he knows that what he's doing right now won't work at the NHL level. I see enough intelligence in his game that I think that he understands that he's just sort of wild carding it right now and trying to rack up points. But I think that alone could have him drop in the rankings, maybe even past the top 10. I've seen him outside a couple top 10s. I still think the skill's undeniable. And if the Habs are able to pick him up, let's say with the 7th overall pick, I'm more than happy. I love this prospect.
Yeah, that's like where I am right now, where like obviously everybody wants Connor Bedard because how could you not? But if the Canadiens end up picking 6th or 7th and come away with Matvei Michkov, I just can't see anybody being disappointed. I don't remember if it was on the broadcast or when we were talking after it, but we had Rachel Dory on last show, and she was talking about her model that she built to like project prospects, and the two closest comparables for Michkov were Evgeny Malkin and Nikita Kucherov.
Yep.
And
I believe his point per game rate right now in the KHL with HK Sochi is higher than Ovechkin's in this draft year.
It is, yeah,
which is absurd.
It is higher.
It's just ridiculous. But yeah, no, there's a couple guys who I think might just trump him in the rankings that shouldn't. Ryan Leonard, to me, this year might just be this year's Karagoche. Guy who goes maybe 5th, 6th, 7th ahead of guys who are clearly head and shoulders above him. Who I still love, by the way. I love both Karagoche and Ryan Leonard, but I don't think either should be top 5 talents. But yeah, there's a bunch of guys like that who might leapfrog Michkov just because of certainty. I think that there's a lot of uncertainty in Michkov's game, and it's mainly because of him playing this sort of weird run and gun, shoot from everywhere style. But I think that fades away with time because he is so intelligent with the puck. His ability to hit seams, to stick handle. I mean, even if you just look at his stick handling in isolation, there's so much intelligence in there. The way he throws opponents off course with head fakes and body fakes, he's constantly scanning the defender's feet in order to see which direction he's facing and being able to stick handle across his feet to sort of make sure that the defenseman is always backpedaling or readjusting or pivoting. You just see the intelligence overall in this game, and just add that to a tremendous goal scoring ability with that shot. It's a deadly combination. You might end up being the best goal scorer out of this draft, and that's saying something given who was at 1st overall. So yeah,
no kidding. Like I think that's what sells me so high on Mishkov. It's like there's actually a legit shot that he could be a better goal scorer than Connor Bedard. And just watching Connor Bedard, he is absurd.
Yep.
Like he has a better. How many NHLers would you say right now have a better shot than 17-year-old Connor Bedard?
If I'm honest, none.
None. Not
like
even
his,
Austin Matthews.
I like his shot more than Matthews, and that's ridiculous to say.
That is ridiculous.
His curl and drag release, I think, is on par with Matthews. I think that his one-timing ability and his ability to shoot off the snapper, just keeps moving his feet and is able to just shoot pucks in top corner while in motion. I think that ability is what sets him just ahead of Matthews. Again, this is like it's out there, and I understand that. And I'm what I'm saying is I don't think that Connor Bedard's shot right now is better than Matthews. I think when all is said and done, Connor Bedard has a better shot than Austin Matthews in his prime.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That I get that. I feel like you're saying like the tools are better, right?
100%.
That'll develop into a better situation.
Yeah.
I feel like Bedard also does this thing with his feet to keep himself moving that I noticed in the World Juniors, and it was pointed out on the broadcast as well, where he almost doesn't take strides. He just kind of like shuffles in a way to like walk the blue line.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've never seen anybody else do it.
It's unique, and I still don't know how I feel about it, but listen, it clearly works for him. He's breaking records left and right. He's literally the best draft eligible scorer at the World Juniors in a single season. Jaromir Jagr had 18 points in 7 games. Connor Bedard had 22, 23. That's just it's absurd. It's just ridiculous. I mean, no one else is as efficient as Connor Bedard, and that's why he's the first overall pick. He's just complete in every way. It's like if you took Austin Matthews' shot and put it into Patrick Kane's body. It's just,
adding that elusiveness.
It's ridiculous. I don't think there's a more shifty and elusive player in this draft, and I think even in the past maybe 5-6 drafts than Connor Bedard. I think he rivals Connor McDavid's elusiveness and shiftiness and ability to get free from defenders. And I mean, I just love this prospect. I've honestly just. It's come to a point where I'm not even really watching Regina Pat's games because there's just no purpose. Like he's playing on a terrible team that refuses to trade him, and he's just carrying his team every night. I don't think there's anything left to scout in Bedard's game, really. I think it's just, he's a first overall pick. There's no doubt about it.
What I'm surprised by with Bedard is how he's not like more bored in junior. Because, I mean, I'm sure he is to an extent, and there's probably things that you can point out in his game, but the level of dominance, even as a 17-year-old, I feel like a lot of players are guilty of just like not trying anymore. You know what I mean? Especially on a bad team. So I guess that also like gives him an extra character prop, right? But there was a couple comments here. I just want to point out, Denny asks about what about a little guy called Cole Caufield and his shot and Ovechkin. I think I'll step in slightly for Hadi on Ovi. I feel like Ovechkin has a great shot, but I don't know if he's ever had like the best shot in the NHL. What has made him special is his ability to get into it, like find his open ice, find lanes, and just always shooting.
Yeah.
Nobody shoots as much as him.
He's not accurate with it. He just constantly beats goaltenders to their posts. And that's just elite positioning and a tremendous one-timer. He's got a blast on him. His shot is, to me, the most powerful among forwards. But with Bedard, just to give you a comparison, like if you put Alex Ovechkin on a breakaway and Connor Bedard on a breakaway, you do that 100 times each, Bedard completely blows Ovechkin out of the water.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
I don't think is money on breakaways.
I'm not sure Ovi was ever even that great at shootouts, right?
He was pretty much average at shootouts.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where like Ovi is a guy who fits perfectly into like cycle offense, and he can create offense off the rush too, but he almost is better if there's a defenseman there with him because he uses their body. It's like his tools for scoring are different than just having a great shot. It's like the combination of positioning and lateral mobility, I guess, and also I find like just persistence, right? You think of that goal against Arizona that's like always on the best goals of all time lists.
Yeah.
He just wants, like, I hate that he wants it more thing, but he literally does want to score more than anybody else
It's sheer
ever.
willpower with Ovechkin. It's ridiculous.
It is.
He wills the puck in the net half the time. It's just, for me, he's not the type of guy who's consistently going to pick corners. Like, for me, that's the difference for me between Cole Caufield and Alex Ovechkin. Caufield is exceptional at picking corners, but he doesn't have all that power. He has a quick release. It hits the back of the net quickly, and it's because of his short sort of follow through. But Alex Ovechkin is just, he is the monster truck of NHL shots. He
Monster
bulldozes through everything, through limbs and chests. It hits the back of the net, and like before you can blink. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, Kay says, yeah, I don't think the power of the shot is the biggest factor here. Yeah, exactly. I feel like the things that, and obviously I'm not a scout, but I'm just trying to think of like the things that you would use to evaluate a shot. It would be things like accuracy, power, and like the different kind of releases you have, like speed of release, like where you can get the puck off from like different positions, if you can shoot it like when it's behind your skates kind of thing, or like far in front of you. Some of the stuff that Matthews does, like when he was a rookie, are things that you hadn't really seen before at the NHL level, right? Like it's adding new skills to make his shot more deceptive and more powerful in certain situations, and just be able to get shots off where other players would like fumble the puck. There's so many little things that go into it that you can miss if you don't know what you're looking for.
Yeah, no, I think the four types of shots I look for is off their strong leg, off their weak leg, off their inside edge, off their outside edge. So, with those four elements, you can combine those and see sort of the different shots in a player's arsenal, and their ability to shoot off balance, their ability to corral pucks in tight or further away from their body and still get sort of decent velocity on it. But the most important thing for me is mechanics. And that's one thing Austin Matthews has down pat. I mean, no one in the NHL has better shot mechanics than Austin Matthews, but no one outside the NHL has better shot mechanics than Connor Bedard. So that's why I think they're comparable in that sense in terms of their goal scoring abilities. Both of their mechanics are just flawless. There was one play where Bedard was on his off leg, off balance on his outside edge, and he was still able to just snipe a curl and drag shot. And that to me is just, it's you can't really describe that in a way that sort of makes sense as a scout. It's almost magical. And that's what I love about Bedard, is he's constantly able to, no matter what position he's in, he's going to find ways to shoot. And especially off the rush, especially one-on-one, his ability to change the angle of the shot, to use the defender in front of him to sort of screen the netminder. He's constantly hitting corners. It's an exceptional goal scoring ability. And it's absurd to me that he might not even be the best goal scorer in this draft. It's just, it doesn't make sense. This draft is ridiculous. It is
a ridiculous draft. It's one of those drafts where it's really going to pay off for the Canadiens to have 2 and possibly even 3 first round picks, as we keep on hearing from every insider that Joel Edmundson is going to get a first round pick. Obviously, it's not going to be the same situation as the Sherratt pick, where it could be in the top half and even in the lottery. But I mean, a low first round pick for Joel Edmundson in this draft still is a hilarious overpayment.
Yeah, congrats in advance to Ken Holland for that pickup. I think that's it's already said and done.
Oh God, they better win the cup if they do that. That's all I gotta say.
Definitely.
Oh my God. Let's see if I have any questions here over the last little thing here. It says, how many times has Connor Bedard split a goalie mask open with a breakaway slap shot from the hash marks? Ovi at least 10. I mean, I'm guessing he doesn't use a slap shot very often because it's just gone out of style.
It's a party trick at this point. Like off the breakaway, it's the thing you do in a 5-goal blowout. When you've got to break like your 8th breakaway of the period, like that's when you pull out the breakaway slapper.
Or if you're David Desharnais in the shootout.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. David was fun with that. He was. Yeah.
I feel like somebody else did that on the Canadiens too. I think it might have been Matthew Dandino back in the day. He used to pull out a slapper on the breakaway.
Oh, you just revealed your age there.
Trust me, I know. I was chatting with somebody like earlier, like yesterday, about like the 1996 Montreal Canadiens. Yeah, it was today, I think, talking about like Thomas Vokoun.
Oh
because
shoot.
I'd retweeted Paul Paduti, who does like his at his adjusted hockey. He's been on the show before, and he does like Hall of Fame analysis.
Yeah.
And he put out like the goals saved above average for, I guess, post expansion, and no Brodeur was on there, and I was like, that's right. No Brodeur in the top of all time. Now you know this means it's a good list. And people were talking about Thomas Vokoun being on the list and how he was the Canadiens pick, or the Nashville Predators pick from the Canadiens in the expansion draft.
Yeah.
They're like, who else could they have picked if the Canadiens like protected somebody different? So we went down that rabbit hole, and oh boy, it was depressing from a Canadiens perspective.
Yeah.
They protected a lot of players on a team that was not very good.
I could assume so.
Yeah, the Hool era is not to be repeated. We'll say that. So hopefully the Canadiens are a lot better than that in the next couple of years here. I'm going to ask you one last question, Hadi, before we promote your work and say goodnight to everyone here. Who do you think is, like, what's your most controversial opinion about the upcoming draft? Who's the player that you think has the most potential to rise that we haven't talked about yet?
Oh, that's a good one. I kind of want to say Andrew Crystal, but he's just showing up more and more in top 10, so I don't think that's fair. Let me go down the list here. Oh, Gavin Brindley is one that I've had a lot of discussion with, and he was lower on my rankings when the year started, and even having him in the first round for a couple months. But he's cracked my top 15, and a lot of guys I've been talking to have said, he doesn't have the tools as a small guy, get 5'9", 150-ish pounds. The lack of tools is going to burn him all that. I think he's a better rush defender right now than half of the defenders in this draft. He's a tremendous PKer. He's got outstanding relentlessness. He's just zooming everywhere, constantly making plays. He plays at a high pace. I would actually like to see him slow down a time or two. I think that's one of the main teachings for him. That's going to unlock a lot more offense. But I think that Gavin Brindley has the capability to become a second line player. And yeah, to have Gavin Brindley in my top 15 when a lot of scouts and scouting teams I've talked to don't even have him in the first round, I think that's my big one. I'm actually hesitating on maybe putting Zach Benson ahead of Leo Carlson right now. I'm still sort of debating on that. So that's another one that I think could be controversial.
Interesting. Yeah, Benson seems to be getting a lot of hype lately, and Carlson, it seemed like he was getting a lot of hype right before the World Juniors, and I feel like he had a really great World Juniors, didn't he?
Yeah, no, he absolutely did. He was one of the best players for Sweden. Zach Benson wasn't even there, which is just absurd to me because between him and Caden Bankier, I think that Zach Benson would have had a better influence on the play, but it's the World Juniors and they're like that. Zach Benson to me he might just be the best. He might just be the two-way center that a lot of teams are looking for.
Yeah, I think I saw you tweet that in the last couple of days here. I guess before I let you go, actually, we got a couple of comments here saying, no, wait, ask about the goalies. So Dina Zulu asks if there's any generational goalie in the pipeline. Let's just say, do the Canadiens have a good goalie in the pipeline? Because I feel like no generational.
Generational is a big word.
Yeah, it is a big word. And the other question was, in the draft, who are like the top goalies for you?
Okay, so with the Habs, I really like Jakub Dobeš. I'm still not sure how he pans out because the NCAA is just a very weird league in order to sort of determine goaltender talent. Kaden Primo. But I think for this draft, I had Michael Hrabal until very recently in my first round. I've kind of changed my mind on that, watching a couple of recent games of his for Omaha. So right now I've got 3 goaltenders, 2 in the top 50 in the second round, the start of the second round, and 1 in my honorable mention, so probably a second rounder as well. Michael Hrabal is the second ranked one. I really, really like Trey Augustine now that I've watched a bit more of him, the goaltender for the NTDP. He's breaking numbers in terms of, stats that he's putting up right now with the NTDP. And the other one would be, Carson Bjarnason. Always forget that name. He's a goaltender for the Brampton Wheat Kings. I think he's lower ranked than the other 2. But Michael Hrabal, I think, is the most NHL translatable one. You're almost getting a certain NHL goalie. I just don't know whether he's going to be sort of a bona fide starter or sort of a fringe backup type thing. He's huge, 6'6", 200 pounds. Covers a lot of net, really good positioning. I just think that Trey Augustine's combativeness really makes up for his lack of size. He's 6'1", 180 pounds, but he's really athletic, covers a lot of net despite his size, moves extremely well in the crease. I think Augustine is a top goaltender in this class, and even he's at 46 in my rankings. So
yeah, so opportunity, I guess, in the second round to grab at least one pretty strong goaltending prospect.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for joining us here today, Hadi. Make sure you let everyone know where they can find your work.
Yeah. So if you search up Hadi Kalakeche on pretty much any social media, you'll find me. I'm on YouTube. I've got my own channel. I'll start a video series on some QMJHL prospects with data analysis pretty soon. I've got the Locked On NHL Prospects podcast. Taking a little break from that, but I should get on it. Should have an episode out by Friday or Saturday. I'm on Twitter at HadiK_scouting. That's pretty much it in terms of where you can find me, but I think Twitter's the most reliable place to keep up with my work because I post everything there.
Perfect. And before we close out tonight, let me just speak just shortly about this whole Ivan Provorov thing, because I said my piece on Twitter and, got the replies from the usual suspects. But one thing that stuck with me, I was kind of scrolling through TikTok earlier today, and there was a video by John Green, who I don't know if any of you follow him. I'm not the hugest fan. I like his brother Hank a little bit more, but he brought up a great point. He was watching a football game, European football, between Wrexham and another team, and Wrexham is obviously the team that Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney bought, and they have the documentary about. But a big fan, like part of the big supporters group in Wrexham, had died, and they were doing a moment of silence. And one guy in the opposing fan section said, that guy's in a box, like a coffin.
Yeah.
And immediately other people in that group went from being silent to joining in on this chant about this fan fucking dying, right? One asshole gives the opportunity for other assholes to collect. So that's why it's important to continue to push back on things like Provorov refusing to wear a Pride jersey. And for all of our amazing LGBT, etc. fans and viewers, we love you, and you are welcome here. And for Ivan Provorov, they weren't asking you to fuck somebody. They were just asking you to say that they exist and that they're welcome. And I'm sorry, but that's not against your religion. It's just not. It's not in the Bible, and I don't care how hateful your church is. It's not an excuse. So that's my piece on it. That's all I'm going to say on it. And if you don't like it, you can, the door's over there. We don't care. I'll see you later. All right, join us next time. We'll be back on Saturday. See you then.
Game over! Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.